Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mastermind, Body, and Spirit Show. I am your host, Matt Belair, and today's guest is an enlightenment coach, seminar leader, and the founder of Avaiya. Avaiya creates positive films, and I think I pronounced it wrong, even though I practiced. Positive films and courses such as A Course in Miracles, the movie, The Tao of Quantum Physics, Leap, A Quantum Awakening, and more. With his intuitive ability, he can rapidly uncover what people truly want and the core stories that's limiting them in any area of their life. He helps them step into who they really are and live their natural expression. Welcome to the show, Ike Allen. What's up, brother?
Thanks, Matt. And you nailed the pronunciation of Avaiya. You nailed it.
Oh, did I? Okay, good. Yeah, I was
Right.
thinking about it on the way in. Cool, man. Well, I'm really excited to have this chat. In doing a little research on what you do in your network, pretty much everything that you've put out, I'm really curious about now consuming and looking into because you have really powerful leaders in the space. I'm familiar with a lot of them, like Dr. Joe Dispenza, Tim Freak, who was on the podcast. So you've obviously been in it for a while, creating a lot of amazing content for people. What did you call that? The Tao of quantum physics. That is
Sounds like
super.
something, doesn't it?
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So do you want to just start with a little bit of background on just who you are, some of the stuff that you've done, which it all looks super fascinating, and what you're up to today?
Wow. Who am I? Isn't that a big question? Okay. So let's put that aside for a minute. I started a company in the media world a little over 10 years ago. My background is in the restaurant business. I grew up in the restaurant business, ended up as a corporate restaurant guy, and then I sort of stumbled into the idea of making a film. And as I started down that path of making a film, I realized, hey, I could make other films. And then I thought to myself, maybe I could just shift my career into being a filmmaker or owning a little media company. So before I knew it, it was just write a company, and it's what I did full time. And really, that's where I am today. Now, we make films, we make books, we make courses. I'll dabble in, I call it the human amusement park. I call life the human amusement park. So if there's something fun to do, I'll do it even if it's sort of off topic from Avaiya. So I like to play with different people. I like to do fun things. I always tell people that one of my favorite business ventures is buying things off eBay with my 12-year-old daughter. And then she sells them via her Instagram account. We'll buy like phone holders, pop sockets, things like that. So right here I am over here doing all this sort of enlightenment, new thought, personal development stuff. And then I'll be like, okay, Brielle, let's sell some pop sockets this week. So I kind of live from inspiration. I look for what's fun. I look to think, is this making a difference that I would judge as better for the world? And then if it is, I do it. I try to create a little, not too much controversy, Matt, but just a couple days ago, I made a book called, and I normally don't go down this path, so it's more about the business idea of it. I said, I'm kind of a liberal guy, grew up in Vermont. I said, I want to, and we've all seen maybe other books like this. I said, I want to make a book called Everything Donald Trump Has Done So Far to Make America Great Again. So I never do political stuff like this, but I live really close to the beach. So I'm walking on the beach, and day after day, I'm walking on the beach for about 2 weeks. I'm thinking about this. And I said, I just want to do this. I want to do it. So it's called Everything Donald Trump Has Done So Far to Make America Great Again. And the whole book is blank, right? So it's sort of a joke book to put out to people that are, again, Vermont, Bernie Sanders, the Democrats. And so I hired someone on Fiverr to do the artwork for me of Donald Trump. I did the rest myself, laid out the book, and boom, it's up and on sale on Amazon. And then I'm on to the next wacky thing. So I just like to kind of play around and do things that are fun. And every once in a while, I probably ruffle a few feathers.
That's amazing. Well, I heard, I don't, maybe it was you, but I had heard somebody had created like a book like that, and basically, yeah, it was like all blank, and they sold a lot of copies. Like it was some sort of like spoof thing. I don't know if that was you or something similar, but yeah, that was the idea. So we actually, there's a friend of mine. He had the idea of funk Trump. So he wanted to make disco great again. So I wish actually I considered wearing it today, and it's like disco Trump, and he's got this big fro, and basically what we were gonna do is have Donald Trump and hip hop Hillary, and kind of spoof it where it made sense. Where Donald Trump was like more the scientist, or no, it's Donald Trump was like the spiritual leader. You know what I mean? He was like a real life Dalai Lama, full of compassion and all this kind of stuff. And hip hop Hillary was like more the science mind. And they were both amazing candidates, and they both loved and supported each other. But the only difference was their taste in music. And so it kind of draws, like for me, not to get political, but being Canadian, I love Trump being president because finally people can understand that the government is not going to help you. They haven't. They're not going to. So now you have somebody in there that is so in your face that's not going to help you. It's hey, it's up to you, the people. It's up to the communities. It's up to the individuals. Like people get into power and then they debate on how they're changing it. They don't change anything. We have to do it as the people. And since I've been alive, politicians have lied to me my whole life. I don't trust them. And so I think, bringing that onus back on us, back on the people, back on, us, the people have the power. Just work together and we got this. But forgive my rant. So you've done all these movies, and I definitely want to check them out. And you fully transitioned into this space, and you're also doing a lot of workshops. Your recent one is more focusing on enlightenment and the philosophies of enlightenment and being awake and all that kind of stuff. Do you want to speak a little bit on that? And then, as a side note, your mic, I think, is going up and down, so maybe the computer mic will be a little bit better for audio.
All right, can you hear me now, sir?
Much better.
All right, let's go with that and see what happens. Technology. It's just like the government or your employer or whatever else, right? You always want it to be 100% responsible for you and to make everything right, and it doesn't. There we go. See, let me wrap that right back in for you, Matt.
Thank you, brother.
I did want to quickly touch on something about you talking about that, and I think that's a big thing because a big thing for me and pretty much for a lot of the work that I do brings people back to being 100% responsible, not some catchy saying, because that doesn't amount to anything. But if you want something done at the end of the day, you have to be, maybe you don't have to do it, but you have to be willing to do it, right? Maybe someone will come along and mow my lawn for me. But if I sit around thinking, wah, 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 why isn't someone just magically appearing to mow my lawn? Or, right, why isn't someone, I'm down here in the United States, right? I mean, Canada's a big country. We're a big country. We can't expect one person. We can't expect 50 people. We can't expect 200 people to deal with something so big. I live in a smaller town, and people work together. I think maybe it's more manageable. Also, people are willing to work together. So again, not getting really political, but more looking at personal responsibility. I can change my oil, or I can have somebody change my oil. But at the end of the day, if I'm not responsible for someone changing my oil, eventually, I'm not going to have a car that runs. So personal responsibility is a big thing to me. So, no matter what it is, big thing. I have a lot of things going on, and I'm not always up on, even when people say, what about this? I honestly sometimes don't even know what's going on. Now, that being said, so the Donald Trump book, it took me a total of about an hour to create on my end of what I had to do, right? And that's off there. And in a month, I'll forget that it's going on. And people say, remember that? I'll go, oh, yeah. I don't really know what's going on with that. It's not really my department. So, but what I will tell you is the thing that we're working on launching at the beginning of next year called Everyday Enlightenment. So if you're listening to this in 2018, it's happening. So Everyday Enlightenment is going to be a membership platform where people can come in, and there'll be tons of films and courses, and we'll have weekly calls, and it'll probably be around $20 a month. So it's really affordable, and people can go in there. It's sort of going to be like the Netflix of personal development, or the Udemy
all rolled together membership price of that. So we're assembling that right now. I'm really excited about bringing that together and then having additional things with guest speakers and things like that. It's 10, 11, 12 years of everything culminating into one new thing. And again, it's about getting down there. It's everyday enlightenment. It's not, I'm going to sit around and everything's going to work out great. It's not someday, it's like today. If somebody gets in there and they're looking for people to support them in losing weight, well, right, one must confront what is in that moment. One must confront why they're 5 pounds overweight, 100 pounds overweight, whatever it is, one must confront it. And my theory is 99.99999% of the time, that responsibility falls on the person wearing those underwear. So, that's sort of where we're going with everyday enlightenment. That's more and more where my focus is. I'm really into the idea, and it sounds like we're in a little cohesion there. And, there's many different ways to look at it, but I'm much more interested in the concept of being responsible and getting up and playing in the human amusement park and getting it done. Now, saying that, Matt, I will not necessarily say that I believe the world needs saving. I believe everything is happening perfectly all the time in my personal spiritual belief. And within that, I think a fun game to play is not let the planet become contaminated with poisons for my children and grandchildren and da 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 da. So I live in a subtle world of not per se judging things so much or attacking others as like saying, wow, look, here's a problem, and we could play a game called Let's Solve It. And sometimes the problem is here, and sometimes the problem occurs like I need to assemble a group and do it. But touching on that again, everyday enlightenment is about getting people really to like take A Course in Miracles. I love A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles is all about, they say, removing the blocks to love's presence. Removing the blocks to having the body you love, removing the blocks to having the house you love, removing the blocks to having the air you love. That's what everyday enlightenment's going to be about. It's going to be, I'd call it a pretty economical way for people to be part of a community, feel like they belong in something virtually, and work on removing the blocks. And I hope the results will be each individual's world looks better, but ultimately the experience of our shared world looks better. So that's my theory, man. We'll see what happens. That's my theory.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. I think that's going to be very powerful for people, and I like how you're kind of wrapping it up, with a little bit of a documentary. One of my friends, I keep hearing this is like entertainment. It's entertainment and like lecturing. It's like infotainment or something like that. I don't know, but
infotainment.
Is that okay? Yeah. That's what
Yeah.
it seems like, and that's good, right? Because you can sometimes I feel like watching a documentary. Sometimes I feel like putting in work, but it is a process, right? And A Course in Miracles is really interesting. That's something that I've kind of dabbled in here and there. Like it'll come into my radar and I'll look into it. But I would like to dive into that. But what I wanted to touch on is the word enlightenment. You say that word and people have all these things. And for me, it's simple. So do you want to explain like what is enlightenment to you? What does that mean to you? And then maybe you can give some examples because there is kind of a difference. Like somebody who is enlightened and what they're thinking and how they're going about their days and maybe processing, and somebody who is not enlightened and what they're thinking and how they're going through their days, and like some fundamental comparisons for people.
Did you say we have 12 hours, Matt? Was it 12 hours we have to explain this?
We have as long as you want. You want to? I'll sit here and listen.
We're gonna just run this. It's a telethon, brother. It's a telethon.
Cool. I'm game. Let's do it in the moment.
You gotta get a bell. I don't have one. You need to get a little bell over there, and we just ding 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 ding.
I used to have the Google effects where I could do these little things, but it started to suck. So that's one of the sad things, because sometimes my guest would just go and there's like a clap button, so I could add like this little clap effect. But yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out some sort of external things. It's a good call.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about enlightenment. So of course. So first of all, right, like, so let's go back to the beginning before the experience of time. And you'll hear me throw the word experience in the middle of things a lot, because I think that's a good thing to throw in there. Before the experience of time, Because enlightenment is experiencing everything simultaneously. There is no time to enlightenment. Now, there's a judgment. So let's wrap back and let's try to come out again. Here I come out again from enlightenment out into what occurs as the human world. Occurs as the human word. Another good word to throw in there. Occurs as the human world. Okay, so let's try this again. Let's go back in and let's come out. Let's go back into the void of enlightenment and come out again. Enlightenment is the awareness of what is, period. Okay? That's it. That's it. Enlightenment is, so let's begin there, but we'll keep going in and coming back out. Just like when we're in meditation or we're in yoga or we're in the Vermont fall foliage where I'll be next week, you know, where we go in and out and in and out of it. So enlightenment is the awareness of what is. Okay? And then everything else is the interpretation of that what isness. So let's go back into it. There's nothingness. And then there's the awareness, enlightenment, God, the 0 point field, right? It's all awareness. And then it comes out to this, whatever this is, right? So enlightenment is the awareness of what is, and everything else is perception, judgment, interpretation. Now, you can see why other forms of interpretations of spirituality would get much more popular, even though, right, the concept of actual enlightenment or Eastern philosophy, Buddhism, yada, yada, thousands of years more old than some other models, you could see why enlightenment itself would not be that popular compared to some other models. Because if you say, well, let me sum it up for you, it's the awareness of what is. It's not a lot of trinkets to sell, Matt. Not a lot of things to do on Sunday, Wednesday night, Saturday. Doesn't really matter if you're a vegetarian or not, Matt. Sorry. You don't really need to wear a t-shirt. You don't really need to wear a shirt and tie, dude. You don't really need to shave. But I bet you there's a lot of people that think you do need to shave. But enlightenment is the awareness of what is. And what is Matt has a beard. What is, let's say it's true that what is the air quality in certain areas is not good, or it's unhealthy for humans to live in, right? Here's what is. The air quality in certain areas is not conducive to human beings living a long time, right? Let's try to keep it as accurate as possible. So let's all, even if you totally disagree with that, let's pretend that that's true. Really polluted. You're somewhere in China. You're in New York City. You're in Denver. You know, I used to live in Denver for a while. You know, they've got some problems there with pollution settling down into the Front Range. So what is that the air is not conducive for a human to make it 100 years. Let's say that's what is. It doesn't. There's no judgment there. It just is what it is. What it is. If a human keeps living in, I don't know, Bangkok, right, and keeps breathing that air in, scientists say what is that it's going to shorten your life. You're going to get respiratory diseases. Da 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 da. Now, enlightenment doesn't say that's right, and enlightenment doesn't say that's wrong. The enlightenment of what is just says what is. In theory, this person is going to die at 50 or have emphysema, right? Smoking tobacco, cigarettes. See how I went in there? So I'm from Colorado, so some of you can figure out maybe partially what I mean by that, right? So let's talk about smoking tobacco, cigarettes, right? It looks like what is, and right, studies, and now I'm in North Carolina, the tobacco capital of the United States, right? Durham, where they rolled most of the tobacco, is right up the road, right? Tobacco fields are all over down here. It looks like, science has shown us that it looks like if you smoke a lot of tobacco cigarettes, the way they've created them to be nowadays, that you will probably get emphysema, you could get cancer, all these things could happen. You don't smell so great, you know, there's a judgment, but people maybe don't like the smell. So what is if you smoke tobacco cigarettes, what is you may die of cancer or battle cancer, you know, fairly easy. It was fairly easy to prevent, battle it. You may battle. My father had emphysema, and he believes what is it was caused by smoking Pall Mall non-filters for 40 years or 30 years or something. He got cancer a few times. He believes it was related to smoking and other things. So what is he died at 76 or something from not really making different choices, right? That's just what is. So enlightenment is the awareness of what is. It doesn't matter if we save the planet. What is, or if we, it doesn't matter if the planet's fine. It doesn't matter if we destroy what needs to be on the planet for us to live on it. It really doesn't matter. What is we will eventually die because there will be no clean water. We will eventually die because the air will kill us. We'll eventually die because we've done something to the ground we shouldn't have done, or done something to the ocean, or done something to the sky, or done something to eventually, right, another planet, a moon, whatever, right? Like, that's just what is. So enlightenment is free of judgment. It is what it is, what it is. I am not happy being 20 pounds overweight. What is, this is not me, but I'm just giving an example. What is I am not happy being 20 pounds overweight. What is it doesn't really look, and someone will be typing to Matt any minute now. What looks like what is there is no magic pill. What looks like what is enlightenment, right, is shining light on what is. It looks like if I confront what is, Matt, I'm probably the one that put whatever went into my mouth that made me 20 pounds overweight. And I'm probably the one that didn't wear some tracking device nowadays that beeps and vibrates, Matt, every 10 minutes telling me to get up off my butt and move, and actually get up and move. What looks like what is unless someone has really tied me down and is stuffing my face with Twinkies or cheese or, I don't know, anything, right, and I'm not getting exercise, it stops here. Now, my experience is that a lot of people live as if things should be different. Mommy and daddy should have loved me more. Or then the brother of that sibling says, mommy and daddy should have loved me less, right? One sibling has the judgment that they were held too much. Another sibling has the judgment that they weren't held enough. What is they were held to the exact amount that they were held, and the suffering comes in. It should have been different than how it is, right? The government should do more for me. And then next week, the government should do less for me. My neighbor, I mean, I love it. I love being in diversity. My neighbor across the road is a minister, and he's a motorcycle minister, and he shoots handguns off into his backyard down into the woods. Now, there's a lot of places many of us could go with that. And what is he is legally allowed to shoot that handgun into the backwoods of his property. That's just what is. Now, what is if I want to change the laws in the county, because I'm actually in the county and not technically in a town or city, I need to do whatever I have to do. And I can think he should be different and he should not be able to do that. But, I can think the police should come and do that. But this week I'll be saying the police should come and get involved in this. And next week I'll be saying the police shouldn't be involved in this. So life is what it is. And enlightenment happens in this life. We're not going to burst into colorful sunshine, in my experience, and get there. Enlightenment is only possible here because we are here, or we're having the experience of being here. So when we remove the should is everything else, and enlightenment is confronting what is. Now, let me tell you the benefit. The benefits of confronting what is. Let's skip over all of the obstacles and challenges and the adversity to being in the light of what is. Post obstacles and challenges. Brother, life is easy. I used to, in my mind, buy a lot. I used to go on a lot of tours in my mind, right? We like to go on tours, Matt, right? You know people like to go on tours. Maybe you like to go on tours sometimes. But what I like to do, Matt, I used to like to go to a tour company and say, hey, you guys have this whole itinerary laid out. I'd like to buy a ticket. And then, Matt, you know what I would do? I'd go on that tour. And I'd complain about everything wherever they took me. They took me to the wrong place. And however long we spent there, Matt, hey, we spent too long. Or you know what was even worse, Matt? We didn't spend enough time there. And then post-enlightenment, you know what happens? So what happens post-enlightenment is you give the permanent ticket over to enlightenment. The tour guide is enlightenment, and then you follow, I call it inspiration. That's my interpretation. I feel inspired. It's really no different than most other belief systems. I feel inspired by the truth of what I am, that I am a reflection of God. I am God itself. I am awareness itself. And I follow the inspiration. And I hear the chatter over there. That shouldn't be like that. Or my kid should be like this. Or my kid should be first in line. Or my kid should be last in line. Or I should get another 5 minutes at the boardwalk, or blah, 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 blah. And then I just let it go. Enlightenment is just letting it go, following inspiration, and life is just easier. Life is peaceful. Life is fun. It doesn't mean I don't, get involved in causes and stuff, but I get involved in them because I feel I'm being guided into them instead of pissed off into them. Enlightenment is the awareness of what is, and then the opportunity here is to live in the flow of that, regardless of what it is, whether it's marching in Washington, D.C., or eating a cheeseburger, unless you're a vegetarian. Enlightenment is being in the flow of it. And life's just much easier.
Beautiful, man. Yeah, that was very well said. I like how you kind of went in these different directions, different examples. I've heard people speak on it before. I've spoken on it before, and what I like is that it's so simple. Like when you understand it, it's not like, when I was reading about it when I was a teen, I thought I was going to get into like full on, Jesus monk stage, and everything was going to be so great. Fairies are going to come out of the woodworks, and it's just going to be incredible. But you're kind of mirroring what Tim Freak said. And when I saw him speak at the Oregon Eclipse, and he's like, it's both, you know what I mean? It's both. This like wonderful connection with everything, and it's glorious, and it's multidimensional, it's fairies and unicorns and all that kind of stuff, pure bliss. And then you're also human. And enlightenment is bringing that awareness of what is into being human. So, one example would be like something sad happens, something happens to your kid, your parents, someone you love. You're going to be sad. You're not kind of rolling around in some sort of, unicorn. You're in a sad human day. And what is that you're sad. And Bingo. So when you come into you're basically just talking about removing the distortions and the judgments and the perceptions. And that's just, again, like a mask. When someone is meeting people and they're communicating, but, I want to project Matt is a great athlete, or Matt is from Canada and he's cool, and his friends thought he was cool, so he's doing things to be cool. Rather than just being there and open and being authentically me as I am. You know what I mean? Not distorting or changing my reality. And as we move through our life experience, is this continuous practice of looking at what is, dealing with it without changing it in our own minds, coming into judgments, to distortions and things like that. So that's my little rant on what you said. And so I'd like to kind of even double down on this for people who are listening. What for you are like common misconceptions of people who are like, oh, this is what's going to happen when you become enlightened? So for me, it's one of the common ones is it's not this like, you read in a book, okay, Matt's How to Enlightenment Guide. You know what I mean? It's that simple. It's not like, oh, when I'm done this book, it's fairy time and everything is wonderful forever. That's not the case. It's like, I love that saying in Thailand and Southeast Asia. It's like same, but different. You know what I mean? Life is the same, but it's different. You're kind of seeing it through this other lens, but that lens is a huge game changer.
Yeah.
So
it's the game changer, right? It's the game changer. Because it's all the same game without the lens.
Yep.
I want to make a very important point, though. Very, very serious, important point. To me, Matt, you are athletic. And when I think of you, I think you are an athlete. And I want to reassure everyone watching this or listening that as far as I'm concerned, Matt is one of the most spectacular athletes I have ever known in my entire life.
Good. Perfect. Thank you. I'm going to take that clip. Take that clip and I'm going to send it out everywhere. Someone else said this, confirming
There's identity. A testimonial for you, right?
Yeah.
Yep. There's no need for anyone to have any misconceptions. Matt is quite possibly the most spectacular athlete ever.
Amazing. Thank you, brother. Soundbite. Got it.
There it is. There it is. Misconceptions. I go with virtually everything else, right? But it's true what you said, because people, the sadness thing, right? I have the experience of a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old daughter. Now, if something severe happens to them, I'm going to immerse. If what is I am truly sad, I'm not going to try to psychobabble, spiritual, magical unicorn myself out of it. I have children because I wanted to have children, and of course, right? I know I wanted to have children because I have children. So clearly, I wanted, right? Whether I think I did or not, I wouldn't have had children if I didn't want to, because some choice I made led to that. So that's something else. But the thing is, people get a lot of ideas. It's that should thing about how it should be different. So here is one popular misconception, right? You will be, try to keep me focused if I get lost out there. You will be sad. You will experience all kinds of emotions. And why would a human want to come here, right? Why would a person want to be here and not experience the range of emotions? Now, a judgment for me is I love to experience joy, playfulness, happiness, and silliness more frequently than I like to experience sadness. But there is something that when I experience the sadnesses, the authentic sadnesses in my life, another thing I like is to be with other people. So when I'm with them and they're suffering, I don't have to shy away. I don't have to run from it. I can sort of write white men can't jump. I too have been thirsty. I too know what it's like to be sad. I too know what it's like to have loss. It gives us that compassion. It develops our compassion, our intuition, which is a whole other set of emotions that one gets to experience. So a popular misconception, everything will be perfect. Nothing will ever go wrong. There will be no more obstacles. I am going to be a quazillionaire tomorrow. I am going to be thin, and I'm going to be as good of an athlete as that. Probably not. I just don't think I can catch up. What is I don't think I can catch up. So there's a lot of popular misconceptions, and it's because people don't understand. It stares them in the face all the time, and it's kind of boring. Here's a popular misconception. Enlightenment is really exciting. No, it's not. No, it is totally not. Being a goofball like this is exciting. Enlightenment is, yeah, I got it all. I got it all figured out. I don't really have any questions. Here's one pro to the actual direct experience of enlightenment. There's no more seeking. The seeking of who am I, why am I here, blah, 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 that completely fell away from me. Here's a con. That completely fell away from me. So now I have to self-generate and come up with other exciting things to do, because all those years I spent seeking, and for all those books and all those courses and all that stuff, I'm not really looking. People say, well, there's more, there's this, is that. Well, maybe, but it's not inside me. I don't have the drive to seek anymore. And that's wonderful, which allows me to, focus more on being totally present to my kids or helping Matt become the best athlete in the world. It all is there in before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water, after enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Nothing changes except the opportunity to look at things differently. Now, that being said, if you truly feel compelled to become a millionaire and you're not currently there, or to become a super athlete, all kidding aside, or to become a parent and it's never worked out, or to find the love of your life, enlightenment gives you access to the greatest love of your life ever, and you see it when you look in the mirror. Now, from there, you will probably have a much greater opportunity to go out and find another persona, another id, right? Another reflection, another human, a partner that'll create a lot of joy for you. But it really only happened because you figured out who the ultimate love of your life was. I am the ultimate love of my life. The idea that a misconception is that the more awake I become, the greater chance is that I'm going to find the love of my life, and it's something outside of me or someone outside of me. That's not true. I love Andy. I love my kids. But man, I don't love anybody as much as I love me. I mean, I love me. I love being me. I love getting to do what I do. I love getting to look out on the world. I love waking up in the mornings. I love waking up in the mornings, and sometimes my shoulders are stiff because I kayaked for a few hours yesterday. I just love virtually everything that comes at me, and that which I don't, I say, well, there's obviously something to let go of so that I can love that too. Right? I'm getting older. I'm approaching 50. I love waking up sore because I'm getting older. I love losing my hair more and more. Enlightenment is the awareness of what is, and there are so many phenomenal things about it. But in the form world, like instantaneous burst of the world is different. No, instantaneous burst, you see the world differently. And from that, the freedom of the time I spent seeking, boy, right, the time we spend seeking, when seeking who am I didn't realize how much time I had spent on that. So when that fell away, there was a lot of thumb twiddling. There was a lot of, well, now what? Right? There was a lot of now what time, and I sat in that a little bit. And I was making my first film, Leap, at the time. So luckily, I had the experience of things that caused me to get up. I had two young children. I had the cause of things that, or one young child, I had the cause of, things to get me up and stuff. So, but the biggest misconception is that the outside world will instantly change. I've never seen anybody like that. Our inner world changes, and from there, the real truth is we have the freedom to change anything we want. But you don't suddenly drop 50 pounds. You don't suddenly, sure, it happened. Every once in a while, right, someone wakes up and there's $1 million in their bank account, but that's not like, oh, if I wake up from the dream, that's going to happen, right? If I wake up from the dream, I'll fill in the blank, right? If you wake up from the dream, you'll be free of wasting your time trying to wake up from the dream. And from there, I think the next phase of the human game begins, which is to play full out with the awareness, like not intellectual, not hypothetical, with the awareness that, holy mata mata, I am God, and where do I want to go today?
Yeah, man. Yeah, you touched on a lot of things. I had to take a bunch of notes because you touched on a lot of really great points. I really love, I'm going to start with the ending because I really love that, where the difference is you're expressing yourself as the human being that you actually are, not the one that you've been conditioned to believe or the one you're conditioning yourself to believe as limited. It's like, okay, cool. It's the same, whoa, I just woke up 50 pounds overweight, hate my job, hate my life, hate everything, miserable all the time. Shit. Cool. Right. Now flip it. Now you've become enlightened, right? And you're like, okay, cool. Like I can choose to be depressed. I can choose to be anxious, and I can choose to love myself. Now, when I let all of this illusion go, the trauma from my parents, all the stuff that I'm thinking, let that go. Who am I? What do I want to do? Maybe I want to roll around in the grass. Maybe I want to start a bakery. Who freaking knows? But you begin to express in a new way, and the freedom is internal freedom. When, like, to give a specific example, you go on the bus, somebody calls me a bearded fool, and your podcast sucks, and then option one before enlightenment is anger, and then maybe I'm going to give them a tussle and I feel less. Enlightened is just like, oh, whoa, that's interesting. Like, huh. And just
Yeah.
like process for a second, then maybe I feel sad for a second. That's real. Like maybe I'm like, oh man, I'm sad. Okay, maybe my podcast does suck. Look at it for a second, feel it out. Cool, that's not true. I'm just doing my best. Maybe, I don't know, whatever. Drop it, move on with my day. And now I'm going to direct my focus on, doing the best I can and moving through with this internal freedom. So, you touched on a lot of really important points. And what I want to go into a little bit more deeply is I've heard people say that they love themselves before. I've never seen and watched someone say it with such enthusiasm as I just witnessed you do. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I am definitely not there at that level of self-love, 100%, not even close. And I think that that's the most important thing, and something that I've dealt with my whole life. I like Greg Braden's thing where he says we all have three universal fears: not being loved, not being accepted, not being worthy. Mine is self-worth. Been dealing with that monkey forever. I've come huge strides on where I used to be. And so I would love your feedback on, like, let's say somebody just hates themselves, they're just right at the bottom of the barrel. How would you help them get to that space of even just tolerating themselves, and then getting to that love that, you obviously express and generate? And I think, and I know from that space of self-love, all things are possible. Everything changes. And that's literally the journey that we're all on. And when you love yourself, everything changes. You're no longer going to allow that shitty job to exist in your life. You are more powerful than that. You are no longer going to allow these friendships that don't serve you to exist. You are no longer going to allow that lover that abuses you to exist. You set a whole new standard for yourself that just is, and the universe reflects it. And people are afraid because they're letting go. Yeah, you gotta do the whole butterfly thing and shed everything that you don't need, right? So you can create energy and space to let a new vibration, to let a new experience in, so you've got to drop this old job that you hate to do a job that you kind of enjoy or that you love so much and you wouldn't trade for anything. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that, and helping me even personally get to that. I love myself. And it's interesting because I remember maybe just like a few months ago, I was driving and I started to cry because I think for the first time I felt it, and it was honest. You know what I mean? I honestly love myself, and it was brief and it was good. And I would say most of the time I mostly love myself, but I don't love myself to the epic extent that you do. And it's something that I would really love to experience more and completely and wholeheartedly, and not feel embarrassed, and just like, what? I love myself. And that's like, just scream it in that. I want that energy. So I'm going to stop rambling and you can assist and educate. Please.
All right. Well, let me share, right, my experience. So first of all, I'll say, right, like, I don't rehearse things, right? I don't rehearse things. So that's very, this isn't something rehearsed that I've done 50 times. You ask me a question, that's what inspiration guides me to do, right? But you can get it, right? You get it. And if you're watching or listening, you're probably getting it, right? Like, I truly do love myself. Now, you can think that I'm insane, right? People can think, right? They can create their own judgment. But what is, if people look at that experience from 3 minutes or whatever, you can see I'm pretty authentic about how I feel about me. It's not intellectual. I am pretty fucking awesome. But everybody is. I'm not comparing myself. And I'm not jockeying for, am I better than other people? And I think that's where the love falls away for people. Am I good enough? Good enough compared to what? Right, there has to be an opposite. See, there's no opposite for me. I am epically awesome because I am what I am. Am I as, athletic as Matt? No. Do I have as much hair as Donald Trump? No. I mean, he takes Rogaine, but I don't want to throw a defense up here. I don't have as much hair as him. But who I am is me, and I just trust that I was created perfectly, and I am freaking awesome. I'm no better than you. I'm no better than anyone. We are all 100% equal because we are all one thing, and that's not intellectual for me. See, living in the direct experience that I am the one thing that occurs as many, it would be absurd for me to consider viewing myself, my persona, Ike Allen, as better than any other persona. But this persona is awesome compared to this persona. I'm just awesome. I don't know why. Now, said, what would I say to other people? Well, here's the thing. I don't know everybody else. But in my experience of being a human, I've seen a lot of other experiences of humans. And the first thing I'll say is, if you have some really serious depression in your experience of life, the good news is that there's someone somewhere that can more than likely make you happier. Now, I'm not here to judge. So there are drugs in the world. There are certified psychologists, psychiatrists, psychotherapists life coaches, gurus, da, 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 da. And I believe if everyone looks inside themselves, just for a moment, they put aside the worst pain and suffering that they're experiencing, and they say, how do I feel I should move forward? Maybe it's to go see a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Maybe it's to call a hotline. Maybe it's to ask someone for a hug. I think we each need to start where we're at and not where someone else thinks we should be at or how our podcast should be. Each need to start and say, I am at frickin' rock bottom. We have a couple friends here, right? It's like you create things, or often there's experience of creating multiple, that you keep running into the same situation. So we have a couple completely different neighbors that have both lost a child. I have not lost a child. I will be perfectly honest. I do not ever want to have that experience. And I cannot relate to those people. But I do know that Andy has taken, my partner, my girlfriend, basically my wife, or whatever magical word you want to put on it. She saw suffering and she said, hey, I know there's a support group in the area specifically for parents who have lost children, run by a man who is a parent who's lost a child, and only for those people. And I would be willing to go to it with you if that would help you get in the door. And it started with one of the neighbors. And then we ran into another neighbor and she said, hey, I have taken this other neighbor there to support her. And you could come too. And this particular neighbor didn't want to get in the car, didn't really know what they were getting into. So they followed in their other car, but they followed. So I think we each need to look at the hurt and suffering. And above all, do not compare it to someone else who is going through even the same thing that you're going through. Look at your hurt and suffering. Imagine where you want to get to, and maybe, if you're a Christian, if you're a Muslim, if you believe in some form of God or whatever, maybe just drop into silence for a minute and say, there must be a better way. God, show me the way. Universe, show me the way. Buddha, show me the way. Divine inspiration, intuition, show me the way. And listen, or feel the knowingness of the way to move forward. And then, as hard as it can be to be vulnerable, try to take a step, enroll somebody in helping you. Call your brother, your sister, a neighbor, a friend, and say, I am dealing with this thing and it's so horrible. And I know you are not dealing with the same thing, but could you be a stand for me to get me to an AA meeting, to get me to a I lost my kid meeting, to get me to the gym, right? Like, it doesn't matter how much it occurs as a gigantic, enormous thing or a small thing like I want to drop 5 pounds for my wedding. Drop in, be silent, and figure out where you are and be honest about it. I am on the verge of something really, really bad. And I don't want to be on this verge. And what feels like the thing to do about it? And then figure out if you need to surround yourself with your family, your closest friend, your lover, yada, 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 and a neighbor, and take an action to start moving forward. I do not coach people that need a psychologist or that need or believe they need medication. And I think there's a world in people that need medication. If that's what occurs and they could benefit from it, I don't even want to get into the politics of should they be on a short term, long term, but whatever they feel right, if it's a step forward, I'm happy for them. Now, for me, when people come to me and say, I've got some pain, I've got some suffering in my mind, in my heart. To me, it's at the end of the day, it's the same thing. I have a few tools that I use with people. Sometimes the tool is to just hug them. Sometimes the tool is to just sit with them. And then we use this thing called the process. And, I say it's virtually like it's the tool by which all change occurs without getting into biology and metaphysical stuff, right? I think most things change in life in this way. Okay, so when you're suffering, I think the thing to do is to confront what is. Whether you want to get to enlightenment or whether you want to get out of a real crappy situation, step one, right? If you're an alcoholic but you haven't admitted it, step one is admit it. I'm an alcoholic. I need help, right? I tell myself, right, this is how I look at things. Let's go to the post office because we all play at those people, but the bad things that happen in those situations suck for those that are involved, right? Charlie's working at the post office and Charlie says, I only have 12 more years and I can retire with a pension, right? And I don't really mind it. And one day, Charlie finally says, you know what? I tell myself that I'm okay going the next 12 years at the post office. And the truth is, I'm probably going to fucking kill somebody before I make it through those 12 years. Now, we can all laugh at that, and that's sort of funny because there's so many wonderful jokes about that. But for Charlie, it's very real, right? The first step is to admit, hey, there's a problem, but admit something is a way that you don't want it to be. I tell myself I'm happy in this relationship, and the truth is I'm not. I tell myself I'm okay being 50 pounds overweight, and the truth is I'm not. I tell myself I don't care about what other people think about myself or my podcast or my book that I published or whatever, and the truth is I do. The first step is to be honest about what is. The first step to loving yourself as much as I love me, or Tim Freak loves himself, who's one of my favorite people and totally authentic. I love Tim. Gangaji, Byron Katie, Mike Dooley, Eckhart Tolle. The first step is to being honest about what is. I tell myself I don't care what other people think about me, and the truth is I do. Right? It is what it is. And then you feel it. So that we call that, we use it in money programs we have, and we call it the ROI process, right? So it's the revelation. I've been telling myself this, I can make it through this job. My job's not that bad. And the truth is, da-da-da. I've been telling myself I'm going to quit smoking. And the truth is I've been saying I'm going to quit smoking for 3 years and I still haven't quit smoking, right? So the truth is that. And then we look and I say, this isn't something new. This is for how virtually all change occurs. Admitting what is, and then, feeling the sting of it. We call it the ouch factor, right? Tell myself that I don't care about what other people think about me, and the truth is that I do. And the ouch factor for me is that I run around pretending like it doesn't bother me, and so therefore I'm not confronting it, and there's an underlying anger building up in me, right? The ouch factor for me is there's an anger. I'm starting to get mad. And then the ouch factor is, and I start yelling at my kids, or I yell at this and I yell at that, right? Because the truth is I'm really mad at me, And so the ouch factor is if I don't do, it's getting real about what is. I tell myself I don't care what people think about me. The truth is I do. And the ouch factor is I've got a lot of underlying sadness and shame and guilt and anger building up inside me. And if I don't do something about it, I'm probably going to lose it on myself or my apartment or somebody else. And so then one generates the I of the ROI, right? An inspired way of being, right? Like a human being or being happy, or an inspired action, right? So say someone's just not in love with himself like that. An inspired action might be to take a course on loving yourself, right? I tell myself that I really do love myself, and the truth is I don't. And the ouch factor is I'm angry inside, I'm resentful, I'm grinding my teeth when I'm sleeping, I'm being mean to my nephew, yada, yada, yada. So the inspired way of being is being maybe forgiving, just being forgiving or being accepting, and you feel it. And there may not be anything to do, right? Be, do, have. It's not always together. Inspired way of being might be so the inspired way of being is being accepting, right? Being accepting of other people's opinions, being accepting of my love for doing this thing. Or the inspired action might be I'm going to find someone who I really feel, or just a book, a used copy of something off Amazon for $1.99 plus $3.99 shipping. I'm going to buy a book from someone that's self-love, 5,000 reviews, 4.5 stars. Hey, maybe that person actually knows something. I'm going to buy that book. And the inspired action is buy the book and read a chapter every night for X number of weeks and do the exercises and put it on my Google Calendar. Ding, promo for Google. And then check in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks and say, has it made a difference in my life? So the way I change things is via the process. Now, for me, I've been doing this for so long. People say, it seems like you don't really do it. I'm always doing it. I just get pretty real about what is, whether I like it or not, quickly. But how do we get to loving ourselves more? We must begin with being honest about what is, seeing it for what it is, and then being honest about whether or not we're actually willing to change how we be about it or to do something which causes it. But it's all enlightenment, shining the light on what is. Go back to A Course in Miracles. Oh my God, Bill Thetford, and I can't even remember who wrote the book or described it now. My God, I cannot believe that I've said her name a million times. Talk about forgiveness. They were at Columbia University, Helen Schuckman, Orthodox Jewish people, Columbia University, fighting with each other all the time, right, in the mid-60s. And then they said, there must be a better way. We do not work together well. There must be a better way. And Helen began having the experience of channeling Jesus as it occurred for her. Now, this book, right, millions of copies around the world, tons of teachers of it. You know, it all began with Helen and Bill saying there must be a better way, and then getting out of the way. And Helen, the Jew, being willing to accept having the experience of scribing or channeling Jesus. That took letting go. That took a little bit of accepting what is, you know, to get to where she was, you know, and she battled it her whole life. Bill, I would say, from what I've heard, sort of woke up from the dream. It seems like Helen never really did. But I like to think that she got further and she had more experience of love and joy and happiness by at least accepting what is and then being willing to change how she looked at it or to do something to change how it occurred in her life. But it's not easy. Change is not easy for us. And as we get older and we think we know more and more, right? Like I used to do a lot of seminars. I used to travel around, do a lot of seminars. And I would say, not stereotypically, but let's just say, I often found that the older people were, the more they seemed to know more than me when I was right in my 30s. And the more they knew all the teachers and they knew all the techniques and they knew this, and they knew that. And it seemed like they weren't really into letting go of what they knew. And I think we have to let go. Even as we get older, we want some kind of badge. I'm approaching 50 and I want some kind of badge for what I've learned, but it doesn't really open up the possibility to learn something new when I think I've already got it all figured out. And my kids look at me like I'm an idiot if I tell them that I've got it all figured out, right? We don't want to hear from our parents how smart they are. You know, sometimes it's good information, sometimes it's outdated information. So I think we need to be open to always new possibilities and new ways of being. You know, even if the new way of being is something that was being practiced by more people 6,000 years ago than it is today.
Man, well, you said a lot there. It's really good, and I think that the process is simple and potent. And the big thing that I like that's included in there is the last step of, are you being honest with yourself that you're going to do something? And the first step, listening to yourself for guidance, because I like to say that, if you get put into the middle of a forest or somewhere you don't know what's going on, there's no one to ask. You got to ask yourself, and we all have that internal guidance. And I think that external conditioning has programmed us in a certain way to look outside of ourselves continuously, and if you look at any of the masters, Jesus, Buddha, and whoever else you want to say, they say look in. And so that guidance or that knowing, we know the answers, and it is a process and it's not an overnight thing. And so just keeping it that real, you know what I mean? Because we're kind of conditioned for the quick fix, and myself included. I would read these books on enlightenment and Zen and be like, okay, cool, got a Zen book, when I've done this, then I'll be good enough, then I'll know, you know what I mean? Then I get like 4 other books. I'm like, cool, like when I read this one, when I read The Power of Now, then I'll know, then I'll be spiritually awake. And then read that one, I'm still the same, like what, but over time, that sucker seeds in. And now I'm at this space that's a little bit different. And I was like, oh my God, it's like so simple and it's right in your face always. And it really is about doing something about it, right? So are you willing to do something about it? If you're out of shape, you know what you got to do. If you're miserable, you know what you got to do. Sit down and look in and give yourself, be your own best friend, be your own guide. Krishnamurti is one of my favorite teachers, just because he's like this relentless wall. He's like playing ping pong with a wall. Like you ask him a question and that ball is coming back. You ask him a question, it's coming back. He's just like, what do you think? Why do you want to meditate? You know, don't ask me about enlightenment. What do you think about enlightenment? Just this ruthless. So, but he's so wise, and it's so true, you know, and that's what a real master does, is put that mirror back in your court. And then, you know, you're also finding that own energy to move. And I think that that's why people take so long sometimes to change, because they get to this place where it's finally uncomfortable. You know, it's uncomfortable enough where they've gone through all the lessons of seeing everything that love is not. I've heard that, you know, we experience everything what that love is not, so we can experience everything that love is. I love that. But what I want to kind of go with this is you're giving these really grounded processes. One of the things that I observed at the Oregon eclipse and Burning Man, and, you know, having people's perceptions of what that is, and, you know, just all around, you know, people have no idea what it is. But even going there and having these high hopes for festival goers and burners, and, you know, even some of the, let's say, the best burners, they've been there for like 10 years and they did this art piece, and then all of a sudden they're in ego too about how you didn't come 2 weeks before, and you know, they're I was just like, come on, man, like, you're here, you're building it, you're missing the whole point. Like, you know, the radical humility also, buddy. um so all these different identity types: spiritual ego, the people that want to take pictures so they look cool, you know, you want to get your Instagram likes up, you get this job so you have money to impress your friends. Or the ego is a slippery son of a gun. And, you know, when I wrote about it the other day, I was saying, you don't remove the identity, you remove the false identity. You don't, like, I don't remove Matt. Like, that is the ego, like my personality. That's not ego. That's like who I am. That's my expression. If I'm a, you know, a beaver or a duck or an eagle or a lion, I know that. I'm just not pretending to be the other things anymore, so the other animals and experiences outside me shape what I do. I'm like, no, dude, I'm an eagle, and this is how I live, and I catch fish, and I fly, and I love that stuff. I'm really connecting to who I am. So for me, a very common misconception is that we lose this identity and we're egoless and Matt has no desires. No, man, that desire comes from honestly what I am. I desire to skateboard because I love it, and I still suck at it, and that pisses me off, but I'm getting better. You know what I mean? I desire to skateboard and travel and learn and grow, and these desires come from within me. And we keep talking about inspiration, and you take that word, it means in spirit, coming from this experience of life that we're so lucky to have. So with that rant, I want to put it back in your court, and maybe if you could offer some wisdom on how we can untangle our own egos and false identities, and then move into like enlightenment, and what, you know, into that space of freedom and authenticity, and letting go of those limitations and distortions.
What was the question?
I was like, I don't know if I can repeat that succinctly. I'll try.
Well, you know, the thing about enlightenment that's so appealing, right, this conversation, is that, you know, Buddhists would say, right, enlightenment is the void, right? It's the space of nothingness minus the word space, right? It's the 0 point field, quantum physics. It's the nothingness. So, you know, to try to talk about it, it's enlightenment is just as squirrely as the ego, except when you're playing around in the conversation, enlightenment kind of funny, and the conversation of the ego being squirmy, not so funny for most people. You can really kind of move around in both of them and not really know where you're going, because at the end of the day, where is there really to get to anyway? You're already here. Where are you trying to get to, right? So the ego is always an interesting conversation. And that was one of the original questions that I probably asked a couple hundred people in the early days of films and stuff like that, right? The ego, right? I'm going to put a whole film out about it and a course out about it at some point. Just about the ego. It's so pointless and yet oh so wonderful to play with. See, I'm really just stalling, Matt. So here we go. Let's go into it. The ego. The ego is, there's a bunch of it. It's just like enlightenment. So let's look at it this way. Who Matt is who Matt is. And the ego is something else. You're dead on. Let me pretend as if what I'm saying is true. Matt is who Matt is, and Matt couldn't be anyone other than who Matt is. And Matt is nailing being Matt. Everybody listening, everybody watching, you're nailing being who you are. Whether you like what you're doing right now or not, you might be eating a bag of potato chips listening or watching. You might be on the elliptical machine listening or watching. It doesn't matter what you're doing because you are nailing being who you are. You really are. And there's no way that you couldn't be, because everybody is divinely inspired. Now, inspiration in spirit, but inspire also means to breathe in, to inspire, means to breathe into, right? There's a force behind all of the hoopla that is breathing into each experience. Here's the word experience again. There is something that is a nothingness. There is a something that's breathing into each of us, and we are each nailing being who we are being. And the ego is the idea that we're not. Right? The ego is the idea that we're not nailing eating this bag of chips right now. The ego is that we are not nailing being on that treadmill right now. And the ego is, I shouldn't be leaving my husband. I shouldn't be leaving my wife. I shouldn't be taking a poop in the bushes because I'm so far from home and I have to jog or whatever. I don't know, right? It's as if it shouldn't be. The ego is merely judgment that it should be different. Matt is Matt, and enlightenment is enlightenment, and the ego is this third thing, right? Body, mind, spirit, the Holy Trinity. The ego is not one of two things. The ego is one of three things. There's God, by whatever name anything wants to put it in there. There's Matt, there's Susan, there's James, there's David, there's Ike, and then there's judgment. The ego is not a personality. The ego is a calculator. It doesn't hold a personality. It's a mechanism, it's a model, it's a motor, it's a calculator that loves to see if Matt is willing to believe that he has any kind of relationship with judgment. That's all it is. Now, when Matt quits wasting his time looking at whether or not he has any sense of connection to this calculating machine over here that totally has his best interest in mind, and man, if he follows that path, everything will be swell. When Matt quits doing that, Matt needs to align himself with something else because space abhors a vacuum. So instead of Matt, who's in the middle, choosing this wacky mechanism over here, let's see if I do it just right. Let's my finger with my nose. I have two young kids. What do you want out of me? Matt has to align himself with something else. So naturally, the other choice is God, divinity, the void, the 0 point field, enlightenment. So when Matt quits wasting his time with even considering whether or not he wants to have a relationship with that mechanism over there, then by default, he chooses God. And when he chooses God, then he remembers, oh, right, I am God, and I'm having the experience of being Matt. So the ego is not the other personality. There's the personality, there's the ego, and there's God. Enlightenment is when there's a symbiotic relationship. Matt, which is nothing, really, it's only everything that you are, nothing, but it's what you are. You're nothing and you're everything. It's both simultaneously. I call it the power of and. Everything is both simultaneously. And the third thing is the ego, but whatever, dude. Have fun over there, whatever that thing is, right? Matt says, you know what? It would be easier if I started listening to the voice of God. You know what? It would be easier if I started letting God breathe into me. What if I let God push its breath into me? It seems like life would be a heck of a lot easier that way. And every time you try it on, You know it's true, whether it's this you or that you or the yous that are watching and listening with us. We know it's true, and we know it's easy. We know it's true, and we know it's easy. It's easy to let the universe breathe into us. It's really easy. Now, the glitch is we get bored, believe it or not. We get bored and we say, I need some drama in my life. So instead of spending $10 a month for Netflix, we kick dirt in somebody's face. And now we've got some real drama in our life. Woo! Real drama. Get some real drama. I mean, I don't kick dirt in people's face. I'm not saying I don't ever get pissed off at anyone, and it comes out that way, but I try to do most of my dirt kicking vicariously through, House of Cards on Netflix or something like that, But the Trinity is God, Matt, and the ego. And the ego it doesn't even really deserve any attention. It doesn't. The ego is not the other thing that Matt. See, the thing is, you say, well, you're either that you relate to the ego or you relate to divinity. Who is the you that's relating to the ego or divinity? That's Matt, that's Ike, that's Wilma, that's Betty, it's Fred, and it's Barney and Dino. Matt is nothing. We are all nothing. And what is so awesome about being nothing is that it opens you up to the awareness that there is this enormous field of possibility to try on anything. Because when you're nothing, when you're standing there naked, if you've got a down parka on and you're like, I'd like to try that really cute leather coat on, it's hard to get it on because you already believe you have a down parka on. But when you're standing there naked, all the clothes are designed for you and you can try them all on. But for dear God, take them back off again so that you can get back to zero and then try something else on. There have been periods of my life where I have been gold card superpower guy overseeing hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. It's not who I am. I took that off. There are times when I've been up and coming filmmaker. I took that off. There are times when I've been super mega guru to Hollywood stars, and I've mostly taken that off. It's irrelevant, but I've mostly taken it off. There are times when I've been father of young kids, but guess what? It changed. There are times when you were a 12-year-old skateboarder and you fell down and you smashed your elbow and you thought it was really funny. Now there's probably times where you fall down and you smash your elbow and it's not so damn funny anymore, brother, is it? Right? Who we are is Julie. Who we are is David. Who we are is Gary. Who we are is Tim. That's who we are. And when we recognize that's it, put a period on it, then the opportunity is to form the ultimate partnership. And the ultimate partnership is with enlightenment itself. And from there, anything is possible. Their old partnership is, I'm not going to believe I'm mad. I'm going to believe I'm this thing called the ego. And with it comes this fucking shit show, just a total shit show, But when you say, I'm Matt, period, and they say, who is that? You say, I don't know, it's Matt. I'm Matt. What the hell else do you want out of me? Who are you? I'm Matt. Well, tell me all the things tell me the things that you are. You're your job, and you're that you skateboard, and you're this, and you're that. No, you're Matt. And part of how you occur in the world today is as a skateboarder, it sounds like. Part of who you are today is a podcaster, but you're not a podcaster. Who you are is Matt, and you're doing a podcast now. It's not an occupation. It's not like occupied like it is who I am. It's I'm visiting being a podcaster, visiting being a skateboarder now on Tuesday night. I'm visiting being a soccer coach. I'm visiting being at Burning Man. But you're visiting it. And when people say, right, take a little kid, right? You want to know who you are? Just look to the children of the world, right? And here's the biggest kicker, right? Kids don't give I say, when Brielle and Ava were little, these are my kids. My second kid's name is Avaiya, the name of the company. So Ava, they're both girls. They're both brilliant. Of course they are. How could they not be? They're my kids, right? So at the playground, they'd start playing with some kid, and I'd be like, hey, what's that kid's name? They'd be like, I don't know. They would look at me like I was a complete freaking idiot. Why in the world would I know what that kid's name was? Daddy, do you not understand the way life works? Hold on, Daddy. I thought you were pretty brilliant, so let me break it down for you as a 4-year-old. That thing is over there. And that thing said, do you want to play? And I felt inspired or motivated to say, yeah. And then we made up this game and we did this and this. And then I'll be really stupid and I'll say, like, yeah, but what's the point of that or whatever? And that's where my kid should have, like, it should have brought it back, Dad. It should have come back like this. There should have been one fell swoop from the 4-year-old across my face saying, what did you just say? What's the point of that? The point in that, Daddy, you complete foolish grown up, is that we did it because it was fun, you moron. It was fun. Why did you clean up the ocean? Whack! The point of it, Daddy, was because it was fun. Why did you create equal rights, voting rights for women, blah, 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 years ago? You can make up all kinds of things. Because it was fun to be a woman and to be a caring guy and to take it on and to make a difference in the world, Daddy. We did it because it was fun. And then I say, who are you? And she says, I'm Ava. No, like, who are you? Once again, I should get the backhand, Matt, and she should say, I'm Ava. Did you miss the point, Daddy? I'm Ava. Put a period on it, Daddy. I'm Ava. And in this moment, Daddy, I'm playing post office with whatever that thing is over there. If I see it again, maybe I'll play with it again. Maybe I won't, but I don't know, Daddy. I'm not planning my whole freaking life out about what I'm going to do because you see, Daddy, I'm not up there. I'm in this moment. And in this moment, I'm Ava. And I'm digging in the sand. I do it, Daddy, because it's fun. And people can change the world, and people can clean the air, and people can clean the ocean, and people can clean their butt, and people can be healthier, and da 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 da. This thing, some people see it as a curse. So I've got this Garmin VivoFit HR. Ding! Free marketing for Garmin. It's fun for me. It's not a burden. I love it. Every so often it vibrates and goes, move. If I could reprogram this thing, it would say to me, move, you fool. You know, right? I would reprogram it, tell me to get up. I like it. It's fun. It's like, oh, I walk way more than I used to because of this thing. It's made it fun. The result is, right, let's say my muscles are stronger, my heart's a little stronger, I'm getting more exercise. But it's fun. Look at me, I have a Garmin Vivo Fit HR. Part of my identity is this. I have this thing. If I lose it tomorrow, it's not part of my identity anymore. You know, it's just not. Matt is Matt, everybody. He's not a podcaster. He's not a skateboarder. Matt is Matt, period. Sometimes he skateboards, sometimes he podcasts. When we learn to accept that all we are is us, then the possibility to get right to the childlike mind, they talk about it in the Bible. The fabulously brilliant Charles Fillmore has a different way of saying it, the founder of Unity with his first wife. He says, right, is the childlike mind that finds the kingdom. Everything is possible when we return to that childlike mind and build what Unity built out in Missouri, Unity Village, beautiful, gorgeous, spectacular. They built it with a childlike mind. They built it with fun. People came together. They built something awesome way back when it was built. I mean, they built it because it was fun. You could say it was hard work and there was digging and there were shovels and we didn't have the modern day equipment we had, but man, I bet they had a good time doing that. I bet they believed that they could, really help promote what we call the New Thought movement now. I bet they had a lot of fun. I bet they were like, man, imagine a place where people can come and believe whatever they want and not be shunned and not feel guilty and not feel shame. Let's build this thing, and then let's have people come and tell us who they are instead of trying to tell them who they are or who we think they are or who they should be. Let's create a place where people come and say, I'm Matt. Want me to help you pick the apples this season and sell them at the farm stand down the road? Okay. And you leave and they say, who was that? And they go, what are you, stupid? That was Matt. He came and picked apples with us. Don't you remember? Who we all are. We are whatever we are, but we're not the ego. That's the third thing. The ego is the third thing. You're Matt, and you have the opportunity to team up with Enlightenment, at which point you realize you are Enlightenment, and you're having the experience of Matt, and then you do what you do. And one day you die, and if you're like me, they burn you and they toss your ashes wherever the heck they want to toss your ashes. And, as enlightenment, the game continues. As Ike Allen, it seems like it's over, but let's not get into that. But who I am today is rock star talking to Matt and everyone that's listening in.
Man, you can rant with the best of them, dude. I love the way you'll go to just different examples that are all the same thing, and the principles are in there. Like, when you're saying how to take a lot of notes again, but it's identifying with what we are, with what we've done and what we have, and then so this identity, then we perpetuate it, and the suffering comes from being identified as that thing. Right. So we're continuously pushing this, Matt's a podcaster, or let's even worse, a successful podcaster, which is,
right.
Maybe
now
not
you're
even
held to that. And God knows you can't fail, Matt, or you are screwed because your identity is successful podcaster.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. So and it's absurd. And that's what we're doing. Right. That's why when you get like a job, I remember when I was younger and, I didn't want to have like an embarrassing job, because we identified the main one people are identifying is their careers. They're like, I am a banker. I am working at McDonald's. Right. That's who I am. It's like who I am is working. Like I'm here at McDonald's working because I need like money to exist.
Because you like food, water, and shelter. You're really into like staying alive.
Yeah, and then what happens is we've been culturally conditioned to judge those people. So egos and false, like one illusion is judging another illusion as better than. So we've got two illusions, and one of them is claiming false superiority because we value money and shiny things. And because I'm in a brand new Porsche and you're beside me in this hunk of crap, I am better than you in this illusional identity, because who I am has this shiny thing that's expensive, and who you are is in this job, and you're poor and your job sucks and you suck as a human being, and none of those things are real. And from the person even in that crappy car or going through that experience, and you're looking out through the lens, your ego is also doing that damage because it's projecting that illusion coming back to your own illusion of your identity of yourself. And that's why cleaning up the identity of yourself is so important, because that's the lens it comes back as, so if I'm in a shitty car, when I got to Whistler, my parents had crappy cars growing up, and I was always embarrassed about it because it made me feel poor. You know what I mean? I didn't want to be poor. I wanted at least not to be poor. And I wasn't, I was just middle class. But I remember getting to Whistler, and the shittier car that you had, it was more like a badge of honor. You know what I mean? Like you're in this mountain town, and people come out of the woodworks and help you push and, get skis on or whatever. It became this like almost badge of honor, like the worse your car was. And it's like this cultural shift. But, you go to a city and, you have this identity, like I'm in a crappy car. People are saying this, and that may or may not be true. That's none of your business. The work is what you're doing to yourself in your own mind and your own consciousness. Like, who cares what, and let's just take a hot group of girls or a hot group of guys, and you're sitting there by yourself and you look terrible and you're in a crappy car and you just work for McDonald's. Your identity and your ego is causing so much suffering because you're not good enough. You're 18 or 25 and you don't have a Mercedes and you don't have the perfect job, and all of these things are who you are, and they're judging your illusion. And now you feel like you're not good enough and you're identifying with it. And so, that's just like another spin on what you're saying. But, it's really drawing out the point that we cause our own suffering from this illusion that's not true. And when we can start to really connect with who we are and express that openly, honestly, authentically, we're going to have freedom. And when we are that freedom, other people see it and they want it, and it's real and it's great. And that's what we can do to heal others. That's what we can do to have a life experience that we enjoy. And that's really what it comes down to, right? It's, it's our own life experience. That's what we can ultimately affect and change. And it's not that complicated. There's a million different questions I have for you. I'm definitely going to have you on the podcast again. One thing I'd like to ask, because I know if I open up a can of worms, the rants are so wonderful.
You tell me to shorten it, I'll shorten it. I'll time myself.
No, it's good. What I wanted to get in, and I wanted to make sure that I get in, is you've been around some of the most powerful leaders, not powerful, let's just say undistorted, awake, authentic people who have been doing it for a long time. You know, in the spirituality and consciousness game, we have a lot of people coming in because now it's becoming cool. You know,
Yeah.
consciousness is cool. Hashtag woke. God, you know, I have to do a video on that and be like, it's just, it's a whole other thing. I'm gonna do a video on it. It's ridiculous. But it's kind of good because it's getting popularized. But with that, people coming in, they don't exactly know who is legit, who is like, you know, it's like in martial arts, they don't know if they're a white belt, purple belt, blue belt, black belt, right? You're hanging out with black belts. I know that they're black belts because I can tell because I've been in the game for a while, and as are you. And for me, what that really is just someone doing it for a long time. In the native and indigenous cultures, they have elders and they've been around doing the work. They're 50, 60 doing the work. You know, if you're only 20 and 30, myself included, 33, been doing the work for a long time, elders are my favorite. You know, I have done a lot of work, I have a lot of experience, and I have some great and useful insights that have worked for me. But you know, you get somebody who's 40, 50, 60, has been putting in the work for a long time, I sit down and I listen and I enjoy it. And um and I absorb all their wisdom and love, and it's amazing. So with this rant, what I want to ask is, for you, who are some of your teachers that you look up to? Who are people out there where if someone's listening to this, they can be like, you know, his books, his podcasts, and they can really connect with these people putting out a powerful message succinctly, who are the real deal?
All right, now you watch, Matt. I'm going to keep this shorter this time.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to do it.
Okay.
So my favorite teacher really is me as awareness. So there we go. There's that. Now that being said, I did want to quickly once again mention, so that people didn't forget, that Matt is possibly the most spectacular athlete I have ever known in my entire life.
Yes.
Point number two made, keeping it short. I think different teachers resonate with different people. So let me touch on a few of them. If you are really into A Course in Miracles and you're really honestly trying to understand A Course in Miracles, really not like some other people which maybe make like pop A Course in Miracles, I think that like David Hoffmeister, not that there aren't others, but he is a spectacular A Course in Miracles teacher. And spending time with him, I feel like I'm just hanging out in a mirror. You know, it's just, you know, that routine, right? It's just like you're just staring back at yourself. Ken Wapnick was great too. He's gone now, but he was great. So in that A Course in Miracles world, those are two that I think are very loving. You know, some controversy as there always is in the world, but you know, David's still with us and he is spectacular. I think Byron Katie is practically brilliant. And really what she teaches the work is similar to the process, or right, how things work. Here's what I tell, you know, right? Like my husband doesn't love me. The truth is I don't love my husband. It's a similar tool. It's very simple, very practical. And she's there, right? She is Byron Katie and she's nothing more. And that's the greatest compliment I could pay to someone. Never met Eckhart. He seems like he's probably there, right? Gangaji is brilliant and magical and wonderful. She is just spectacularly wonderful. Adyashanti makes it fun and playful, right? I think I would encourage people to look for teachers that operate in a similar world than they do, unless if you're looking to a teacher who lives on a mountaintop and isn't in the real world, I think the Dalai Lama is great and I think there are wonderful things to get there. And for me, I try to look to people that are in a similar world to me. You know, I like people who have kids and can talk about the challenges of being enlightened and still going to like parent teacher, you know. So, you know, if you're really overweight, look for a teacher that's overweight, as bizarre as that sounds. If you've been an alcoholic or you're battling alcoholism, look at Alan Watts, right? Because that guy supposedly was freaking drunk through the whole show. Alan Watts had it figured out, but he was apparently pretty freaking sloshed during the whole thing. So, you know, maybe look for people that you can relate to. Because I think a lot of us rush off to the mountaintop and we spend a week on that mountaintop or at the silent retreat or whatever, with that technique. then we go back, like, I don't live in New York City, right? But then we go back to the city and we're in that world. Instead of running away, not that there can't be great things for that, look for a teacher who's living a similar life to you. Eckhart wasn't doing anything spectacular. He was teaching. Byron Katie was involved in real estate. I mean, look for these people that, right? If you're a realtor, or you're an investor, I think she was primarily owned property and stuff. Byron Katie. Look for someone who's similar to you. Tim Freak is definitely a fun one. How can I not love the British accent? How can I not love the playful silliness of him? He's a dad just like me, I look to him. I think there's a lot of great teachers. One other thing I'll say is get clear about what your agenda is. If your agenda is removing the blocks, the illusions of your mind, do not confuse that with, I'm really just looking to get rich quick. Because if you're looking to get rich quick, then don't waste your time with spiritual gurus. Go find some program that helps you get rich quick. But if you're looking, if what is that you're looking to, right, be more fulfilled in all areas of your life, now look for those teachers and don't make it be about, nothing wrong with money. I love money, but get clear about what you're really up to. And when all else fails, go to Amazon, the legendary Amazon.com. We love it. We hate it. Go to Amazon and read the reviews. Like, literally invest in reading the reviews before you just buy another book that's going to sit on your bookshelf. I read Billy's book, The Power of Now. What does it say? Blah, blah, blah. What do people say about it? If you see a common theme and you say, yeah, I think that would affect me too, doesn't matter how well the book's rated. Don't buy the damn book. Look for an author that has something that you relate to. The best teacher is the one that you actually, not like, oh, I'd like to be like that. Find someone who's already kind of like you in the way they live their life, and then read their stuff and take on a couple different ways of being in your similar lifestyle. Matt's the greatest athlete. I'm out. That's it.
Beautiful, man. Pretty good. You did pretty good. You ranted and I loved it. And, I like it because, when somebody really knows their stuff, they can just rant forever. And I just get to sit and listen, and it's wonderful, and the teachers out there who have, are embodying it, we're saying the same thing in different ways. And it's just wonderful. It's wonderful to receive. It's wonderful to learn, and it inspires me to see other masters out there doing it and hearing wisdom in different ways. And so I've appreciated everything that you've shared. Thank you so much for coming on. Now I'm going to open up the floor here. So I would like you to just offer where people can figure out, they want to touch base, they want to know what you're working on, they want to follow all your stuff because you are the greatest spiritual guru of all time and have made the greatest documentaries of all time, and they're just so amazing. But one thing I just wanted to leave is just like anything that you wanted to share, like anything you want to leave the listeners with, maybe some of your most powerful lessons. You could rant for 20 minutes. I don't care, but anything you feel like you want to leave the listeners with, and also how to find you.
The first question is, Matt, are you suddenly going to get up and go to the bathroom while I'm ranting? Be honest with me. Be honest about what is.
No, okay. Sitting it out.
Let me think for a minute. How do you really say the same thing over and over and over again, yet one more different way, right? The opportunity, here it is, right? Like, the opportunity is to wake up. Doesn't matter whether you take it or not. The opportunity is to wake up. If you wake up, my experience is you will end up like me, Plato's allegory of the cave. You will end up always trying to explain to other people what it is, how awesome it is, right? Come on in, the water's warm. And if you're like me, you'll fail miserably. But you don't care what anybody thinks anymore. So it's a lot of fun. The opportunity is to wake up and then to just enjoy the ride, And my experience of the way to do that was to punch out the cloud cover, as has been said, to see the blue sky for what it is, right? We think we know what's up above us, but it's cloud. Remove the clouds, it's sky. Obviously, there's always further to go. The further and further and further out into space you go, the more you realize there's more space than anything else. And in that space is the awareness of what is. It's love, it's boring, it's magical, it's wonderful. Come on in. The water is warm. I really don't, it's awesome. It's magical. It's like being in a national park, and right, you're up there in Canada and you're in the park, and right, the same thing just keeps cycling over and over again. There's a lava slide up ahead. Thanks for tuning into this low range, just repeats over and over again. Come on in, the water's warm. Enlightenment is pretty silly. It's a lot of fun. And all you have to do is quit identifying with everything you believe you are and see that you're just Matt, you're just Ike, you're just Andy, you're just Brielle, you're just Ava, and then you do different things. And then you wake up the next day and you're just Matt, and you're just Ike, and you're next Andy. You're just Andy, and you're just Brielle, and you're just Ava, and then you do things that day. Like, that's it. It's funny. Enlightenment is funny. It's silly. It's playful. It's not, there's no, oh, can I ask that kid if they want to play? When you're 4, what kid doesn't say they want to play? Everybody wants to play. Everybody wants to have fun. Doesn't matter whether play looks like saving the oceans or, making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich together. Come on in. The water's warm. I don't care if you tune into my work. I don't care if you go buy something off Amazon. I don't care if you tune into Matt. But if you're looking for something and you relate to me, I like to swear in my coaching. I don't have to, but I like to. I don't really do much coaching, but you can learn a lot about me. We have a lot of free stuff. It's Avaiya. We made the name hard so that only people that were really interested would come on in. It's 6 letters. www, those aren't the 6, avaiya.com. You can sign up for our newsletter. We'll tell you about things. We'll tell you about other people. We'll tell you about ourselves. We put out free films now and then for people to watch and other things. Whether you sign up or not, imagine what's possible when you quit worrying. Period.
Awesome. Amazing, brother. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the work you've done, all the documentaries, the effort, and, also thank you for staying awake, because sometimes I say, to people, and I write about it, waking up is actually not the hard part. It's doing it. You know what I mean? You know what the right thing is to do. You know what you're supposed to do. And it takes like an integration process. Burning Man or ayahuasca or strong plant medicines, things like that. They can show you like, hey, yo, look, and you're like, oh my God, and you see it. But then people don't take the steps on, improving their lives, unplugging from the matrix, stopping this job that harms people. And that's like, one of them could be like the military, like, if you're, not saying it's bad. I have lots of compassion, but like also shooting someone in the face, that's intense. It's an intense experience. So, when you figure out who you are, what you really want to do, and then make the steps to do it, and you've done it and you're doing it and you continue to do it. So just want to acknowledge you, love and support you in your work, and just appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks. I'd like to say one more thing, and it's a very practical, boring thing. And this is for anybody that's a parent. And this is really for anybody that's on the planet that's in a position to do this. This, to me, is so pivotal. It's so pivotal. Boy, it must be. This is so important to me. And here is my piece of advice, which will make so many other things. It's a form world thing, and it'll make your life very simple. Stay out of debt or get out of debt. It's off topic from everything else that I've said, but I have raised my children and I have pounded it into their heads. And this lesson was made very clear to me by a very, very, very famous Hollywood person that everybody knows, that's super nice, and you would never expect him to say it. I won't tell you who he is, but I was at his house and he said to me, what is the number one way you think for people to to have more integrity, to live in integrity in their life. And enlightenment is integrity, it's being integral. And he said, I will tell you straight up. And everybody knows who this person is, virtually everybody. And you would never know it. But he goes, well, let me tell you what everybody needs. Like, and I said, what's that? He goes, everybody needs more fuck you money. Because when you don't owe anybody money and you're not indebted to people for things, it's much easier to stay true to yourself than when you owe people money. When you live in fear of losing your home, losing your car, making your right student loan payments, making your couch payment, making a payment on your phone, yada, 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 it is very hard. So I have nothing but compassion for people that are in debt. And if you want to know a very solid form world practice, keep your kids out of debt. And if you're in debt, get out of debt. Because when you don't owe people money, it's much easier to quit that job that's hurting the environment. It's much easier to stand up and do things that you know in your heart you should do, but you can't because your paycheck is on the line. Get out of debt, stay out of debt.
Love it, man.
Random thought, man. Random thought.
No, it's important. It's very, very practical. Money is essentially slavery. I had just a podcast with Michael Tellinger, and he wrote a book called "Slave Species of the Gods," and they introduced money in his book. They are, let's say, aliens. That's what he says. Introduced money and it's power structure, and then the kings and queens and leaders of the world, and then all of a sudden, you go to university, then you're in this massive debt. I totally agree with that. And then that basically leads to living within your means, accumulating some wealth, and then you have freedom. And then you don't have to compromise who you are because you need to get a sandwich. So very good advice. I call it super sandwich money, but powerful, man. I love it.
And I don't think money's evil. I think owing money is evil. I think money is a powerful tool for me personally. It's a powerful tool because I could trade it for a sandwich. I don't think there's anything wrong with money. I think owing money is the problem. Owing money for me, now there's my own personal judgment, owing money is a problem. Gotcha. That's what I think. And living within your means. People that have a bigger picture of me probably think I live in this, enormous house and this and that. I live way below my means because I really like money in the bank. One of my favorite things is cash. Not like in a greedy way, but in I like it. I'm secure. I don't worry about things. And I'm not out to show anybody that I have money. I'm out to actually have it and to be able to take care of my kids and to be able to tell everyone to go fuck themselves next to maybe the Internal Revenue Service down here. And they, tell me I have to do something and I don't want to do it, but I feel desperate to fill in the blank. Money's a powerful tool. And it doesn't mean you need to spend it just because you have it. And that's what Matt's saying about live within your means. You don't need the biggest house. You don't need the biggest car. It's not really going to make you happy if you owe money on it. Happiness is an inside job. And when you don't owe people money, it's a hell of a lot easier to be happy.
Awesome, man. I dig it. I love it. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. I'm definitely going to have you on the podcast again because I feel like, I had some other questions lined up here. And because as you were going, I had more questions, but we'll do it again and invite people to check out your website. I'm excited to see your membership course come up. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of amazing things on there. But yeah, brother, appreciate it, man. It was a great time. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, right back at you. Yeah, you're good fun. I'll play around with you anytime. You're just good, clean fun.
Cool, man. Thanks, brother. Well, thanks everybody for watching. We'll catch you in the next episode. Peace.